Do okay. Do that first.
Yep.
Do you need a motion?
Roll call.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
And see you too.
Aye.
Tara, are you taking the roll?
Yep, I will.
Buddy.
Okay,
Okay, let me just grab my note here.
no problem.
Okay, Luke,
Okay.
Gloria, okay, Darlene,
Here.
Denise,
Here.
Janelle,
The T.
Present.
Computers
Corey.
up all the way.
Here.
Jim. And then I don't have Rebecca. We have Denise.
Yes, here.
Both of us. I don't know which is which. Didn't.
That's who we have. You have 8 now.
Okay. Is both Chris and, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Never mind. I'm confused. But did you get Jim?
I did
Got
have Jim,
9.
yes.
Okay, good.
Looks like we got 9, don't we?
I'm not legal.
No,
Oh, I'm not counting you.
Okay.
You have 8.
3, 4,
There's 8 of you.
5.
Yeah, we got 9.
Good.
Yeah, we're okay.
You're good. You can start.
Okay, cool. We have quorum. So back to what I was saying. Yeah, you should in your packet. You got the meeting minutes from February 3rd. Hopefully, you've had a chance to review those. And I would entertain a motion to approve.
One correction, please.
Okay.
In attendance, my name is spelled correctly, but in a second to a motion, it has an E on the end, and I don't have an E.
I've made that mistake before myself.
That's just a spelling correction, nothing big.
I'll get that fixed for you, Janelle.
Thank you.
I move that we accept it as
As
I'll
per-
correct it.
Cool. Denise
Okay.
makes a motion. I'll take a second.
I'll
Second.
second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Okay, so 2 discussion items. First one will be chairmanship. As the season approaches for me, we're open now. I'm getting busier. Obviously with a few canceled meetings and then moving to Zoom, we didn't quite progress as quickly as we would like to, and with some discussions with the mayor and with Alderman Ross and things like that. I don't think I'm going to be able to continue on effectively as the chairman of this committee. Unfortunately, I do want to stay involved. I'm afraid, like I said, with us opening up and our season, and the good news is our season's starting out crazy and we're already ahead of schedule, revenue wise and stuff like that. It's just going to take up a lot of my time, and I want this committee to succeed. And I just, all the things I was doing outside the committee with, the field trips and just doing stuff outside, I'm just not going to be able to continue all of that. Again, I do want to continue to participate as a member of the committee. I know Alderman Ross was going to check into the procedural part of if I need to, tender my resignation via letter or how that works, or if we can just do that through here. So did you find anything out about that?
I think that's one I forgot to write down, and I didn't do, Luke. I'll just be honest. So I'm not sure. But anyway, I think we can, I don't know why there's any reason we couldn't. You've asked to step down, that somebody could make a motion for president and second it and just, assign a new president.
Is
Janelle?
is there a possibility that you would come back in the fall?
Yeah, for sure. And actually Alderman Ross and I discussed that as a possibility too. It's just, like I said, we kind of anticipated that we would hopefully be wrapping up a lot of what we had done by May, originally. And like I said, between weather and COVID and everything else, everything kind of got pushed back a little bit. And so it just, we didn't quite get it accomplished as much as, like I said, especially what kind of mayor was expecting out of the committee and things like that. And I just, I feel like just with my commitments with work, obviously it's just going to be tough to do it. And like I said, it's just, I want this committee to continue going forward. And I just feel like
I will. I'll protest.
Yeah.
a pro
Hey,
tem.
Corey, what about you? Do you think you can handle it?
Great idea.
All we have is attention.
I mean, it's whatever we need to do. I don't, I'm the new guy to the group, so
Well, that's the best way.
I hear you.
Yeah, you certainly, I do think you certainly bring some experience to the table, and I think, your voice has been heard through us, and, I would certainly feel comfortable with that, but I mean, again, you gotta be comfortable with it first.
Yeah, I know. I do work full time though. In fact, I'm working right now.
Yeah, same.
So-
I'm in the same situation. I'm at work right now, and at any time, somebody could come barging in here and steal me away, that was the discussion I had with Alderman Ross, was just like, it's just tough, because on the night of one of our meetings, if a dishwasher calls in or a cook and I have to fill it in, it's business first for me.
Sure.
And like tonight with the rain and everything like that, it's no big deal. But if it was 80 degrees and sunny out and we were short staffed, I'd have, business would come first,
Yeah.
just unfortunately. So,
Well,
Janelle?
yes.
Consider it,
Janelle,
Corey.
how about you?
We travel so much. I just really hate to commit. I can always Zoom to attend a meeting, but when you're out of town, it's tough to chair anything.
right.
Well, we got to have somebody.
Is
It ain't
that a
gonna
no
be
from
me.
Corey?
It's Corey, how about it?
Sure. Go
There you
ahead.
go.
Very ringing endorsement.
Could I
was
ask one, could I
stutter.
ask one question? Is there anybody that would like to? It's worth a shot.
I know, and this is actually something I didn't know when this committee first started, that Janice was actually the chair of this committee years ago.
Yes. Yes, she
I didn't-
was.
Yes, she
I didn't-
was.
I did not find that out until like months into this whole process that was even the case. And I wish I would have known that. I would have leaned on you for more help from the beginning.
It's okay. I think it'd be best, I mean, I would do it, but I'd rather not. I think it should be somebody with new blood.
Sure.
I'll help.
Absolutely.
And
Right.
I don't mind, guys. I really don't. It's just, I think there's a little bit we're just not even sure what we're here for yet, And so without a little bit of that direction, it's kind of hard to frame what your responsibility is going to wind up being.
Right.
If you're going to lead, if you're going to lead somewhere, and a group of people, you want to know where you're going.
Yeah.
Sure.
And to be quite frank, that was some of my struggles early on, because like I said, it just took a while to kind of figure out what this committee was and what we were doing. And I think that kind of made it tough for us to really kind of get started in this whole thing in the beginning, because like we all kind of came to this thing with different ideas of what this committee was supposed to be, and it took us a while to kind of bring that around and kind of how it was going to operate and stuff like that. And I totally feel you there, Corey. That
Yeah.
was certainly part of my frustration, but that's why, like I said, we had some meetings with the mayor and with some of the other aldermen and things like that, and kind of got it lined out a little bit. But
Well, one
right.
more time, we came up with a suggestion. We voted on it. It passed. Luke, you were going to present it. You were told not to. So it's no wonder we're confused.
There
Good
you
point.
go.
So I'd like to, and then I don't want to get us off the subject of leadership, but I'd like to come back to that in a minute if you guys don't mind.
for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, let's do try to at least figure this out. And like I said, if we want to do a pro tem thing through the summer, and then if we're still, if this, when I come back to it and I get, even in September when it slows down a little bit, and maybe after Bike Fest is kind of when my world starts to come together a little bit more. And who knows where this committee will be at that point, and where the rest of us will be, the composition of the committee. A lot can happen in those 6 months.
Sure.
So, but at this point, it looks like Corey has been voluntold that I mean, like I said, I'm open to further discussion, of course. But
That's fine.
You know what would have been
Needs a
good?
motion.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
What
go
would
ahead.
have been good, Jenny, since you were the last chairman, is give us an idea what went on then.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I wish I would have had known that at the very beginning, because like I said, I think
Yeah.
we could have got a lot from it. Like, that was just
Well,
my
no,
ignorance. I didn't know coming into it, you know?
this has been very enlightening because it's so broad. Before, they gave us a specific thing. We met in all the years I was on there. We had 3 topics. I think one was, can we buy a new, or what we thought our thoughts were with buying a new ambulance. And then how are we gonna pay for it? And everyone on the group decided we really didn't need it yet. You know, not just because we needed a brand new one, because it would be nice, but we, you know, and because that was 10 years ago or so. And then we did the parkway, and we got that going, or at least the idea that we got it started. Then the community, with especially Phyllis, jumped on it and took it. And, you know, and the city was there behind it. But, you know, we've got some really big topics that are on this list that, but, you know, that's basically what it was. I mean, they gave us a specific thing that they wanted us to discuss or do, and then we just rolled it around and got it going.
Well, they haven't done that to us, have they? Yeah, they haven't done that to us, so,
And
you know.
and quite frankly, that's kind of what I expected this committee to be. I thought that was kind of how this was going to go, is that the board would come to us and say, here's a topic we're discussing. We want some input from the
Yeah.
city advisory committee. Advise us on what to do, instead of kind of giving us a blank sheet of paper and saying,
Mhm.
you know, which I think has led to some of our frustrations and inability. And then, like I said, and then you add in the circumstance of, you know, switching to Zoom and missing some meetings, and it's kind of, every time we kind of got momentum going, we'd lose it. I felt like, you know.
I
Well, the
can't.
challenge, I think the biggest challenge I've seen is we're kind of being tasked to do something or come up with suggestions that involve spending a lot of money or something that's just completely out of our wheelhouse. We don't know, you know. We came up with the recommendation of doing the development director, who not only would be able to follow those leads that everyone that we've had pop up here and there, who would be able to take this research that's been attached to our packet already. I mean, I didn't know that research had already been done, but they've got traffic counts. They've got what retail is needed in the city, which ones are people leaving out of the city to go somewhere else. I mean, they've got all this research. You need a person, you know, and then, you know, rumor mill, you know, the city's got a
Can you get
reputation.
this?
The city's got a
My phone.
reputation of, well,
He's ringing.
I don't know. But the city has a reputation kind of out there that,
I know
you
it's
know, they're not
secluded,
very
so.
business friendly. So if you have
Right.
that point person, he can be that point person. He can stifle some of the rumors. He can be that point person for the businesses that want to come in and talk to. He can be that man. And then when you have these analytical information that's already been compiled, well, he'd be the one to go through all that stuff. I don't know. You know, it just seems it seems like the work's already been done.
Right.
Well-
That you need that person to who has the authority, if you will, to push it forward. And
Who
I
has
don't,
the authority?
well, that would be someone from in a physical seat of government, I would think, you know, hired by the city and employed by the city. I don't know that.
I'd like to interject. You know, you're talking about it. No, we don't have an economic developer. And it's been a real quandary from this Buxton research and whatever. And between our city administrator and our planning and zoning gentleman.
I know, but it's not working.
Excuse me? What? Did something say something?
I think that's the number.
Somebody said it wasn't working. And I
Something
think that-
isn't working.
But
You
go
can't
ahead.
hear me?
No,
No,
we
go
can hear
ahead,
you. I
Phyllis.
think that-
Somebody spoke while you were speaking and they said what you were describing wasn't working. So go ahead,
Well-
finish your thought.
Okay, the bottom line is we have, as board members, have requested a little bit more transparency of what's going on with the progress from the results of the Buxton study, of which they recommended various, like you say, different retails or different categories or whatever. There, and again, we were reassured that they have been in contact with developers, and they, yes, they do have some names of some particular companies, but they do need to get out to reach out to them, and they're presenting them with a flyer and some more information, and it just it's mind-boggling. But certainly is something where it is working, but it's not working, what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think,
Because those two people are very involved with other things on their plate, and they're doing the best to work it in of contacting and or getting interviews in. And that's where we are right now, which doesn't seem to me, personally, I don't think it's progress.
Darlene?
So what you're saying is that our city administrator has too much on her hands.
Well, Darlene, what I'm saying is she's doing her best along with Carrie Patterson, the planning and zoning director. And they've been working together for the last several months in trying to correlate information from Buxton and then from the communications that they had of who to contact. And that's, I mean, and some of it, it's just a matter of appealing whether they would be, the companies would be willing to come and talk with them or not, or the developers.
No.
I don't want to put words in that particular vein. Yeah. Richard, you want to chime in? I'm
No,
just,
go ahead. Janelle's had her hand up. Luke called on Janelle.
okay.
I listened to the Camdenton Chamber Forum the other night, and I went to the Seven Springs Winery to hear the KRMS forum. And there were mayors there from Camdenton, Eldon, Sunrise Beach, Versailles, and Lake Ozark. One of the questions that was asked was, if you had the funds, what are the priorities you would put forth in your city? And without exception, they said an economic developer. Each mayor said that. And Lake Ozark was up front saying, is one of their aldermen said it, not the mayor, that they have Aldi's ready to go as soon as they would get through all the COVID stuff and the water stuff out there, and a new Casey's. So there is development coming. And if we are not on the forefront of getting it and looking for it and being presenting ourselves as attractive, it's going to go somewhere else.
Well, Carrie Patterson reiterated that things are really moving, and I said, what do you mean? And he said, we are in the midst of several developers that want to do things here at the lake in Osage Beach, but they're not at liberty, of course, to tell us who, what, where.
Well, I know that we are the general public sitting on the committee, but it's just kind of interesting that we hear from Gina, we hear from Carrie. There's always something in the works, and then something doesn't happen.
Do we know if they hired an event planner for the city of Osage Beach?
No, they did not.
No, they don't.
They did not? Because I know they advertised one and took applications, but that's all I know.
Then I may be misspoken. I'm not sure. That's a better way to put that.
And real quickly, before we get too far afield on our actual topic that we're on here on the chairmanship, and Diana, I know you're coming in late here, but basically due to dog days opening up, I'm, at least for the summer, gonna have to step down as the chairman of this committee. So we're trying to we're trying to talk Corey into to doing the chairmanship at least through the summer.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'd
That's
like to
fine.
wrap that up before we get too far afield on anything, because we're kind of getting away from that. So
Yeah.
Luke, this is Paula Brown, and I've been here the whole time. You just can't see me,
I got
but
you.
I can hear you.
Gotcha. That's the number. Paula Brown is the one with the phone number, or the number down there in the, at least for me, it's at the bottom right corner.
So
Yeah.
do we have to make the motion for this or what?
I would
That'd be
think
best.
so.
Yeah, I
Then
need a
I'll make the motion
Good.
that Corey will relieve Luke until he can
Make
come
it
back.
a vice or a vice chair that takes
Vice
care of it for the next, just like it would be a,
Right. Vice
But-
and
president.
then you'd step back in as soon as the thing.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll be back in. That's fine.
That way you can both work and you don't have to worry about not being here and.
Right. And then and Corey, I'd love to, get together with you outside of it and just kind of put our brains together and kind of do some of this. And I know we've talked about that already, but at some point we need to do that. So so as of now, I have a motion on the floor here too.
Corey,
The floor.
Corey to be the, are we gonna call it a pro tem or a vice chair? How do we?
Vice Chair.
Vice chair?
Yeah.
So if I had a
I
second,
second that motion.
okay. Gloria seconds
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
all in favor of Corey becoming the new vice chair?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll of course sustain.
Very good. Okay. I thank you, Corey. I appreciate that, man. And like I said, let's get together and kind of put our brains together a little bit. And
Not a worry.
I'm here to support. I just, like I said,
I can find an excuse to go buy dog days.
there you go. There you go. Okay. So we've got that wrapped up. Now, Richard, did you want to revisit the topic that Janelle brought up regarding
So I think,
Well,
I don't
should we,
know.
should,
Go
real
ahead.
quick, should we approve the minutes? Have we already done that?
We've already done it.
we
We
did
did
that?
it.
That's right. Yeah, yep.
Okay.
I'm just getting sidetracked.
No,
Sorry.
that's
problem.
good. You got me on that last time and I appreciate that. So thank you. We did that the very last, back in the February meeting. So,
So I'm not exactly sure what, I'll jump in real quick. I'm not exactly sure what Janelle was referring to. If that was me that recommended not, then I can only say that it's probably because there was a list of topics that we still hadn't gotten through yet. And so I just probably felt it was best that we, for lack of a better term, move down the list and kind of provide some input from the committee on each of the topics before the reporting back to the board. So if it was someone else, that would have been my thoughts. If it was someone else, I won't speak for them, but go ahead. Sorry.
I'm not referring to any specific person other than Luke said that he was prepared to present it and he was told to wait. But Phyllis commented at one of the meetings that as a sitting alderman, she would prefer to get our recommendations, maybe one or two at a time, as opposed to one big slate of recommendations that would boggle everybody's mind. One at a time they can look at and discuss. I don't care. It's just that we've taken action, we voted on it, and we sit on it. And yet we're frustrated that we've been meeting for 9 months and we've done literally very little.
Fair enough. I'll take it back to the board. That the economic development position it'll be a discussion item on the next agenda.
Well, quite honestly, I think that's kind of the point is whatever we're trying to accomplish right here in this meeting, in these meetings, is exactly what that position would be and is for. In the absence of that position, you just have a group of citizens spitballing some ideas, but no one wears a City of Osage Beach name tag to do anything. I can't call Aldi's and say, hey, you want to come on down to the city? I mean, I can't do that, but someone from the city probably might. I could sit here and say it'd be a great idea to have an Aldi's over here, but that doesn't mean anything. I don't know. I mean, we could all come up with all these great ideas. It's a matter of the ability to act on it. And you know, the lack of that position is just, you know, it's that, you know, it's exactly what happened in the last city I was in with Smithville. They did the exact same thing, a survey, traffic counts. They got a whole new city branding, you know, with a logo and a motto and all this other, which I thought was kind of wasteful. $70,000 for a logo that, anyway, we could have had the high school design it as a competition or something, you know, for free or whatever.
Hey, that was,
You know, we did all that work, and then what happened with it? The number one thing that came out, we need to get a development director in there to take all that input, you know, and then go forward. You know, and of course, some of the things that the development director knows, we don't know. Like, for example, where's the water and sewer at? You know, do we need to add this, or what parts of the city are available? Are we annexing this? Do we have that? We don't know that kind of stuff, but you know, someone in that position might. So that's kind of my thinking on it.
That's why I was mentioned the event planner. The job was up on the website, and they accepted applications through the 8th of February. And then we heard that they filled the position. That's why I was wondering if we did in fact hire someone.
I will just say, I'm sorry, Diane, that I'll report back. That may have been something to do with Parks and Rec. I don't know what the word event planner means, the position. I know they're doing, you know,
It could have been
tournaments and they've got leagues down there, and that may have been what that was about. When you said event planner, I was thinking about a specific individual that was, you know, doing all the other events like Easter egg hunts and things like that. And I hadn't heard of that position out there. So,
well, and there's a new one out on the website now for a Parks and Rec director or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
We lost our Parks and Rec director.
Yeah, we lost Matt.
But I didn't know if the event planner was on the Parks and Rec or just the city. But anyway, that's why I was curious if we're going to put somebody in that position instead of an economic developer who could use some of the data and stuff. Okay.
Right. That's a position that was planned in this year's budget. And that director position has not even been discussed yet for figuring out how to budget it and what, you know, if we have to, for lack of a better term, rob Peter to pay Paul to pay for an economic developer. So any position they're hiring for or that they're advertising for now already existed or it's the first year of it, and it is not the economic development position. So that is just, I think that had something to do with the parks, but I'll find out for you.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Denise?
I know we could keep going around and around on that. What if we go on and let's talk about the use tax?
Yep, let's move on to that. Very good. I like your style. See, that's why you were the chairman. So Richard, I guess I'll let you speak on that because I know. Was that your item on the?
Yeah, it was. So this is a list of items that was all developed early on, has kind of been sitting on the bottom of the agenda. We're just starting to bring some up. We talked about general economic development. We can't, you know, and so we'll move on past that. And one of the things that we have been, you know, that's been tossed around, some cities have, I think Camden tried to pass it, it failed. I think Lake Ozark passed it recently. We have discussed it. It got discussed a year and a half, 2 years ago at the board. And one of the, I mean, a lot of people also say, well, what is a use tax? So a use tax is if you pass in the state of Missouri, the way things are all set up, if you pass, you have to go to the citizens and pass the quote use tax. Once you do that, that gives you the ability, and I don't exactly understand how all the legal workings are, but to get internet retailers that are selling in your area to charge sales tax on their items. So right now, if someone goes out to Amazon and buys a widget and they live in Osage Beach and that's their billing address, there's no city sales tax being charged. Okay. And so, but if they go down to the local hardware store or whatever the widget is, of course, they're paying 2% for the city sales tax. But the only way that those online purchases can be, the city can get the sales tax and recoup that or collect it is through a use tax being passed. Some cities passed them long ago. They've been out there for years. I happen to look up Warsaw, Missouri, because I lived up by Clinton. Somehow I stumbled across it. I think they passed theirs back in 1991. So I really don't know what that effect was back then, but to have a use tax, you have to go to the voters and you have to approve a use tax. Now, the question people have asked in the past is, well, what does that mean? How much is it? And honestly, nobody really knows. The estimates back whenever we looked at this a year and a half ago that were brought forward, and they were at best, I don't know, they were scientific guesses. I'll just leave it that way. I don't know if the WA was in there or not, but there was somewhat scientific guesses, and it was around $225,000 a year. And so right now, what's happening is the state legislatures, there was a Supreme Court ruling, I won't get into the details because it confuses me, but it's called Wayfair, it's against North Dakota. And basically it changed some things that our state, based on our constitution, the state legislatures involved. But I think what the result is going to be right now is that there will still need to be an election before a use tax can be, or those electronic, or I guess online purchases can be taxed at the city level. It will still have to be passed. And there's one question that's out there about whether or not franchise fees, for example, are going to have to be reduced to offset it, which means that there's a zero revenue increase. There's some people out there that consider this, especially in the legislature. I've talked to a couple of them, of the representatives over the years, and who felt like that this is a tax increase because people aren't paying this tax. And while I don't disagree that more tax would be collected, the challenge is that Amazon has a 2% advantage over, Dick and Jane that are at the local retailer selling the same thing. Or they have, an advantage over the local Walmart store. And that's just a fact. Whether you agree that they should or shouldn't is no different, but it's 2% less whenever they buy the same things if they're buying them online versus buying them locally. So that's the challenge. It's not a level playing field.
Well, if
That's my
that's
assessment.
If that's the sales pitch, then the use tax should match whatever the current city tax is. That's how it should
would.
be framed. And so if the city tax goes up or the city tax goes down, so should the usage tax as well.
I'm not sure I understand what you're asking, Corey.
I'm just saying, if at a future time, I don't know if both of them are considered separate voting issues, but if they were, you could probably lock it in by just simply tying the usage tax rate to the same as the city tax rate, no matter what, whether it goes up or down or whatever. Does that make sense? Am I
I
making
think
sense?
it automatically is.
Oh, it
because of the
automatically
way-
is, okay.
So for lack of a better term, all the use tax does is gives you the ability, because there's this question about out-of-state purchases, okay? And then there's also some things about, and I don't want, I'm sorry, I can get more information if you guys need it on this subject. But if it's Amazon being shipped out of the St. Charles thing in Missouri versus an Amazon in Indianapolis, for example, I know they have a distribution center there. Because there's this state law out there about revenues and whether you buy it in in-state or you purchase somewhere else and so forth. I don't get that. If anybody knows about it, I'd be glad to listen. But at the end of the day, all it says is that if it's an online sale, it's in my mind, it's being considered an out-of-state sale. And so therefore, the use tax gives you the ability to collect that for online retail purchase. Now, in versus out, that's another confusing part of it. But the point is that you can't make Amazon collect it and remit it unless you have a use tax in place. And whatever the use tax in place is, to tie that back to the automatic, is the amount that the city would normally collect in sales tax as a rate.
And how does that get applied to all the other vendors that are out there? Is that just by law, by because
Yeah,
Amazon's
it's
not the
federal,
only one selling.
There's some type of law out there that
Okay.
basically says you have to, as a retailer, if you're going to be lawful and you sell these things in these ways in this state or this city, you're to collect that. And and depending on where you're at, some of those you can see I've seen it on Amazon. There's times when they're collecting amounts that, for example, the state sales tax is getting collected. The state's had a use tax in place for 15 years. They passed it at the legislature. So they're getting their sales tax. Okay. So if you're buying that widget, you're paying whatever it is, 4.5% on that $10 purchase, if you will. 44.5 cents or 45 cents, whatever that is. but that's how that works.
On
Denise.
the state use tax, they had a deal where you, like the first 2,000, you didn't have to pay. I mean, it wasn't internet. I mean, it was anything outside of the state didn't collect it. Would
Yes.
that affect us too? I mean, I think
No, I
that's a
don't think so.
question we need to find out.
There was some provision in there about that, and I don't remember how that worked, but and a lot's going to depend on what gets finalized at the legislature. I think what you're speaking of has something to do with what currently exists. So there are some
Right.
cities.
No,
out
it
there-
is,
right,
yeah.
Right. There's some cities out there that have a use tax, and I think there is some provision around. I remember the $2,500 credit thing in the discussion somewhere, but I'm not sure how it actually applies. But that's current. But of course, Osage Beach doesn't have a use tax in place. We've never went to the voters.
So do we have to develop, okay, is it just that we pass it and it just automatically goes, or do we have to take it to Amazon, Wayfair?
No. That's through the Department of Revenue. All of that stuff
Okay.
is handled that way.
And then, let's see, what was my other question? Well, I'll think on it. I
That's
lost.
okay.
my train of
Other
thought.
questions?
Janice, I'll come right back to you if you do get it. I know Phyllis had her hand up next.
Now, the bottom line, when people hear our residents, whatever, that go to the polls, and there's all of a sudden they have to vote on an extra tax. Half of them, or if not more, unless they're educated of what this use tax is for. I mean, it's nothing out of their pockets whatsoever. That would be constant. Amazon, internet sales, yes. And believe me, the city of Osage Beach could really, really benefit from extra revenues from this additional tax. But I think the key in order to have this use tax to be passed, in my mind, is to target what the city would use that use tax for. It's not just going to go in general revenue and they think, oh, sure. No, we need to target it. And even just like for something of an indoor, outdoor community facilities, something that the people would want in our community. And they, that's good. It's a different fund for a different avenue. Whether it be curb and pavement management or police, fire department, whatever. But more people would vote for it if we had a targeted reason. And I think that's very important. And I think it's important that we do try to implement this use tax. It's been a long time coming. Our neighboring towns have it, and there's no reason why we don't have it for online services. When I was in business for umpteen years, I could only order mini golf supplies out of state, which seemed ridiculous, but I did that for many years. Went to trade shows that surely there's companies in Missouri that handle this. Nope, sure isn't. So I ordered out of Tennessee, and every time I placed an order, I had to keep my records because every quarter I had to report my use tax, and that was based on the amount of money that I spent on these out of town, out of state, I should say, companies. Well, it was the law and I did it, but many people are getting by. And I mean, I order online and I'm not paying a use tax for whatever, but I'm just totally in favor of it. And I just think we need to target it and have some reason of whatever it may be that our residents would like it, and that would make them vote for it. I'm done.
Darlene, and then Janelle will follow.
I think she's absolutely right. That's the only way you'll get the voters to vote for it, is to have a reason for it.
Yeah.
Janelle?
I agree with targeting the money. But if we're bringing in $250,000 a year, you need to define what you're going to do with it after whatever the targeted vehicle is complete.
If you reach the goal, what happens to the excess funds?
Right.
Exactly. Is it going to go into the general fund, or you're going to have another?
No, I mean, I wouldn't want it to, Janelle. I mean, like I said, indoor, outdoor facilities, for people to, even community centers, a regular indoor outdoor swimming pool that costs a ton of money. I think people would like that in our area, just something that they can relate to. And that can be, you know, on down the line, but definitely not in general revenue.
That might be a good goal for us.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand that.
I
Darlene,
said, I think that that might be the goal for us. We need to start doing something and finishing it. That's a good one.
So we covered A, what is it? B, the amount of potential revenue. Do we think is that what we think it's at? I don't know, Richard.
it's hard, there's no way to tell.
Yeah.
And we, back 2 years ago when this was discussed, I can't remember, I don't know if they went to somebody at the Department of Revenue or somehow, maybe Missouri Municipal League had an angle or a contact, but I mean, they reached out to somebody that knew a little more about it than the folks in the city. And that's what their estimate was, around, as I best recall, $200,000 to $225,000. Now, year and a half later, is there a lot more online sales? Yeah. So that number could have grown, but we'll not know. I don't know how do you know? Because without reaching out to every company out there and finding out how much they sold in your city, how are you going to know?
And obviously you can't get it exact, but I mean, I'm sure there's some sort of estimate out there.
Right. So
Yeah.
the best estimate I've heard somewhere between 200 225,000. That was from a couple years ago.
Okay, Phyllis.
Well, I thought this was an interesting thing that when I was doing a little bit of research on the Missouri Legislature, it said as of March the 11th of this year, the tax would go up 2.5 cents a year, starting in October of this year, until the increase is fully implemented in 2026. Currently, the state has a 17-cent per gallon tax, which is the second lowest in the nation, behind Alaska. This legislation will increase that, guaranteed, to 29.5 cents per gallon. I thought that was interesting.
Okay.
So there.
All right, so I guess that kind of covers C on item number 2. How is the state legislature currently involved, correct? Is there any more on that particular line item?
As long as that it's designed that the legislator is going to do the collection and the auditing and all, you know, if all of a sudden, I don't know how they'd ever know. It's almost a legit, but
Well, there's people in the Department of Revenue that work with the Amazons of the world and so forth, and
Yeah.
they provide tools, I'm sure, on the website of the Department of Revenue. You know, if I'm doing business, I mean, that's just part of the business of Amazon, is knowing how much they have to charge in what municipality or what state. And
no, I meant that they're going to do the collecting. You know, we don't have to set up a whole division.
no.
I know, I'm just saying that that's gotta be in black and white. Like, well, it's not our favorite thing, but the Tri-County 3%
Yeah.
that all the lodging people paid, they won't help us. The state doesn't collect it. The county won't help us. I mean, it's one of those things, we've got a 3% tax and don't have any teeth to get it out. I mean, just so that whatever we do is covered is what I'm saying.
In other words, some way to collect it.
Well, to help, yeah, and how to collect it, and it's, yeah. Go ahead. I didn't.
Okay, well, I was just going to move on to D, which I think we've kind of talked about, if recommended, how would the committee proceed approaching the voters? And obviously it sounds like
Well,
yeah.
it's just kind of strange because this isn't, this, to me, this is a city level issue that they would put on the ballot. It's great to run it through the Citizens Advisory Committee, but it's not one of our recommendations. You know what I mean? It's not something we came up with.
Right.
So what, I don't, I guess I'm not really sure.
Okay. Could I take a?
It just
sorry.
seems, I don't know, I don't take this the wrong way, but it seems like someone wants to pass a tax that no, but they want to pass it off to the Citizen Advisory Committee to say, well, they recommended it. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's kind of what it seems like a little bit.
Let me
And
help
at this
you. Let
point-
me help you with that if I
At
can.
this
Okay.
point, we haven't, at this point, we haven't taken, and I don't think we are recommending, and I don't think, and I wasn't anticipating taking any kind of vote either way on that, to be quite frank with you, Corey, because I'm kind of with you on that. It was on the agenda, so I was going over, and at this point, it was more of a educational thing for, I think, all of us at this point. But Alderman Ross?
So I'm gonna maybe it's better to kind of take a step back so you can move forward. These are some of the items that you're starting to see on this list were items that were on the original quote revenue enhancement subject, okay, that we are trying to get to, okay. There's things like right now I'm having trouble with running two screens, so it's hard for me to see the agenda and see you all, and I'd rather see you all, so I'll figure that out. But what there's annexation, and when we talk about that, there's ways to increase revenue that way. I forget some of the other subjects. Property tax could be another way to go. Okay, and so this is just a discussion item for you all to understand it and try to make any recommendations you would towards whether it's a good idea to try to utilize in the city of Osage Beach for growing revenue. Because I think what I tried to explain at the very first or second meeting, it's been a while, and so like I said, sometimes it's better set back. We have a trend line of flat revenue and increasing costs. Okay, and sooner or later, without something changing by reducing costs, there's going to be a problem. Okay,
Yeah.
and
we're
that's where,
asking
and so
for
that's how
another-
this got back. I want to answer one of that things real clearly, Corey. This came up and was discussed on the dais a year and a half ago, and there was not a motion to proceed with this tax. Okay, as a matter of fact, and now I'll be just personal opinion as one alderman, not trying to sway any votes. I said this: unless you demonstrate the need and you how would I say, tell people what you're going to do with the money, I was not going to support going forward with a vote. That goes back to kind of what Phyllis said. And if I could expand on that just a little bit, I was at MML in Branson 2 or 3 years ago in the city of St. Joseph, by Smithville, Corey. They passed it. They announced it. They congratulated the city of Smithville. They passed it on the 5th try. They tried it 5 times. And I was sitting in the audience thinking, wow, I wonder how they did that. And the guy that stood up and said something about it, I pulled him away in the hall after that. And I said, how'd you guys get it passed? And he goes, well, our streets were crap and we assigned it only to the streets and people voted for it. And so they demonstrated why they needed the money and they assigned the money to a certain area and they got it passed. So now, as City of Osage Beach, I don't know that I can tell you where it'd be nice to have money, but I'm not sure we've demonstrated the need, but that'd be up to the board. And then, if your all's recommendation is that if you thought a use tax was a good idea, if you, for example, subscribe to the idea that some people believe, and that is that Amazon has a competitive advantage and that should be collected, well, here's what we're going to use it for too. Okay. So.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Denise?
Well, can it be, instead of saying only roads or only a center or what, can it be like a suggestion that we do it like sort of a grant, like if a department of the city, we can make it toward one thing, but if you can't use it right then, you don't want it just sitting there. Use it for, I don't know. It was just a thought. I hate to go so specific that it doesn't get used.
So there's some terms that got through around about general fund. And so an economic, the way the city's organized and the way the money moves, and a lot of this is by statute. If, for example, you said, I'm not trying to push this, so bear with me, but you said, okay, let's take the $225,000 and let's get a use tax and see, and we'll put it towards an economic developer. Okay, that's what the money will be, as Phyllis said, targeted for. The reality is that economic developer is a part of the general funding or the general administration of the city. It's not the sewer department, it's not the transportation. I'm trying to think of the others that are separated, but those are the two they're mostly, because there's a 1% tax that's collected for general fund. So if somebody was to say, well, I don't want it to go to general fund, well, unless you target it to the roads or you target it to the sewer system, you're going to enhance that. Now, if you said we wanted to go to a community center at the park or a pool at the park, well, then it would be, then it could be, for example, what do they call that? But sunset, whenever that project was paid off. But I don't, then I think you're getting past, that would take some legal things about whether you could do that. And I'm not, we can find out about that. But the way the state law is set up, I don't think you can sunset a use tax.
Yeah.
Let me put it to you that way. I don't think there's a way to sunset a use tax. Just some of the things that have come up. Go ahead, sorry.
That's question.
Someone have a question?
All right.
That answered my question.
Okay, gotcha. Cool.
I mean, I think what would help the board is if from a process standpoint, if there's things that you would like to know more about a use tax, if you'd like to think about it for a meeting and come back to it as old business and decide whether you think it's a good idea or not. But at the end of the day, do you need more information? At least we got to start talking about it. And if so, what is that? And then whether you want to try to finalize it tonight or put it on as old business and carry it on to the next meeting so that the topic we stay on topic and it stays addressed. And
we get through the agenda and finish the meeting too.
Exactly.
So I personally, I would certainly want to find out more information. It's not like it's new. It's not brand new ground here. This has happened in other communities or things like that. And I'd like to see how it has worked in other communities and how like I said, we're not reinventing the wheel here. This has been done in other communities before. And I'd like to find out more about how that worked before I would even begin to form an opinion on it. But I think the sentiment kind of came out at the very beginning of this. I think the gut reaction of most of our community, especially here at the lake, particularly in Osage Beach, just because of other prior taxes that have come up, I think the gut reaction of the general population would be no on when anything that has anything to do with tax.
Get educated.
What's that?
I said, until they get educated.
Sure, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying the initial
Yes.
reaction. I think that's kind of the initial reaction from this committee as well. Is just an initial, gut feeling that, it's not anything we're particularly interested in pursuing. But at the same time, I'm not opposed to learning more and educating myself first, because before I'm able to educate the rest of the community or anybody that I talk to, I have to wrap my brain around it more to even figure that out. And like I said, I think we can learn that from other communities. I think if we're presented with some more information about how it has been implemented in other places, how it worked, what they've spent the money on, I would feel more comfortable at least going further. And at this point, I feel like it's like kind of the sentiment is that, I think we table this and move on. And if we,
is there any particular things or somebody that would like, for example, if we could, I could talk with Gina, and if we could find a couple of cities that have implemented it and how it's working, is there any particular type of things you'd want to know? Trying to figure out how to help you.
Are you needing our push on this? The advisory group, I mean, do you need our
I think that was kind of my point earlier as well. I mean, what value are our voices going to provide the city if this is an avenue they're wanting to approach when it comes to a tax, a budgetary item that's related to the city's budget? I mean, honestly, I could hear we're budget shortfalls, but I don't see the city's budget line item by line item. I guess I could dive into it if you go to the meeting and ask to see it and go through it, but I don't know if there's a budget shortfall or not. I'm not saying anybody's lying or anything, but I don't know. I do think there is a argument to be made about the fairness of local businesses having a tax as part of the sales process where an online sale doesn't. But at the same time, I don't. I'm trying to understand where our voices are gonna, this seems to be a very city-centric vote issue.
I'm gonna, for my, just as, and Phyllis can chime in from a board standpoint. We had quite a discussion, and there was, for whatever reason, a motion wasn't made, but there was quite an intent on that board at the time by some members of that board that they wanted to move forward with the use tax. At that time, I wasn't convinced. And to be quite honest, I'd like to have more feedback from some folks. And this type of a committee would help. I mean, sometimes you find
Okay.
yourself up there trying to get these, wrestle with these decisions, and you feel like you're on an island because there's no one at the meeting. That's fine. I hope everybody enjoying their life. But you know, you'd love to have some feedback and input. So at the very simplest of terms, Corey, in my mind, that kind of feedback, you know, of we think, you know, we like the, for example, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, we like the idea of leveling the playing field, but we would want to know what we would suggest you target the money in some way. Front, you know, what we might suggest a pool. You guys can go as deep as you want or as thin as you want. But at the very least, that it's a good idea or bad idea would be helpful to the board.
Okay.
Gloria,
Yeah, I guess that makes more sense. Yeah, thanks.
Gloria, I saw you had your hand up there.
Yeah, basically, you know, you could table this, but find out from us or whatever that use tax, get a couple things that we really think should be used for, like, you know, continuing with police training. We can, you know, things for the police department, the upgrading, or like she said, a community center. Get 2 or 3 of these things figured out, what we would like to bring up, and then go to the alderman and say, hey, this is something that we're interested in. Use tax for whatever. You know, give them 3 things that we really think that it should be voted upon and get it out to the public. I don't know. See what their input is.
I mean, that we have done some community surveys. So
Yeah,
if what you're suggesting is that either you all are going to put together the top 3, or you're going to recommend that the board comes up or the staff comes up with a top 3 and puts it out in a survey.
yeah.
There's some surveys that have been out there. As far as the park itself, there's been some surveys about how best to enhance the park. So that has happened in the past.
Only suggestion, but
So at this point, do we need to take any action on that agenda item, or can we just move on? Do we have to have a motion to table it, or how's that? What do we do here?
I don't think you.
Could we ask that that we table, then we get some information like from cities that have, like if it's our local group, I mean, did they say that Eldon had it or Lake Ozark had it, or just to
Lake
find out, you know, get some particulars then, and then tell like Jenna to what areas wouldn't we want to, I mean, we legally cannot use it for. Like, can we use it for salaries? Can we use it for education? Can we use it for, or are there so many specific things in the budget that we couldn't do it for? I don't know. I mean, I just get some information and then talk next month.
Who's on point for that?
What's that?
I was wondering who's on point.
A what?
Who's on point to get that information? I guess that's if you guys want me to take it to Gene, I guess I can find out. I'm still trying to understand. Don't get me wrong. I apologize, Janice, but and some people may want to move on here. But what is it you want to understand? Or you want to know how much they collected, or you want to know whether?
what's it used for?
Like, if we said, I heard you say that you can't use it for this because it's in this division, you know, in the budget, there's certain things that have to be used certain ways from the taxes or whatever. So if we make it like, can we say road usage or, you know, fix the roads?
Yes,
Isn't there already something in the budget for that? that we
Okay.
wouldn't apply that to? I don't know the sections that we could actually recommend.
Okay.
That's
Let me
what I'd
see.
be wanting.
I think that you can do it either way, because St. Joseph assigned it to the roads, and maybe it was just on faith. I'd have to know the specifics of St. Joseph. That's going to take a little work to figure that out. Bottom line is I think what you can do is you can designate it. You don't need to designate it. Okay? I think that you're foolish if you just put a use tax out there, to be quite honest, and don't tell people what you're going to do with the money. Okay. But then if you want to get down to the semantics of what you're going to legally set up. So for example, we collect a 0.5 cent sales tax right now in Osage Beach on all the sales and it goes to transportation by ordinance or whatever. Okay. You can set it up that way, or you can set it up blind. There's no, you can restrict it as much as you want. You could probably restrict it to janitorial services at the airport if you wanted. I don't think you go about it that way, but you could probably restrict it that way if you wanted. So,
Okay, well, that's what I was asking. Are we gonna put all these ideas out and then find out, no, we can't do
No.
this?
it's not restricted
That's-
in any way.
Okay,
And I saw Darlene had her hand up, and we'll hopefully that'll wrap up this part of the discussion.
No, I was just wondering, how do we go about finding out cities that have a use tax? Are we capable of doing that? Can we do it? Ask them the questions that need to be asked. How does that happen?
There's a list. I've seen it through the Department of Revenue of the cities that have passed the use tax. For whatever reason, I remember the St. Joe situation. I remember Warsaw. I can talk with Gina and see what she can do for us. If you have what I might suggest is if you have a list of questions or a couple of questions, send them to Luke or myself or to even Tara, who's been sending out emails, and she can make sure it gets there. So that, I'll take point on trying to find the information that you guys want. It would just be helpful to try to understand what I'm trying to, the mission that I'm on, for lack of a better term. Because want to try to get as much in the most useful information I can, so you guys can move forward and move on another date. So it's not talking
Darlene?
about 4 meetings.
As a private citizen, I couldn't get that information. You, as alderman, would probably have a better way of doing that.
Sure, it would be easier if you know how to manipulate the system. Absolutely.
Cool.
That's what I want to know.
All right, so let's move on. Unless there's any further discussion on that particular agenda item, I would like to move on to the third item, which would be annexation. And again, I will turn it over to Alderman Ross.
So we can annex areas to, for whatever reason. If we do it if people come to us and say, we want to be part of your city, then assuming the board wants to honor that, then we will provide them the normal services that we provide, and we make no commitments. But and I'm being a little bit broad here, but at the end of the day, if it's a not involuntary, in other words, we're going to come get you and you are going to, whether you like it or not, or become part of Osage Beach, then we have to provide certain things at the same level as the rest of the city within like 7 years. Okay. But there is some opportunity for revenue. But again, we're trying to figure out how to do revenue growth. Okay. Is to go out and either convince somebody to voluntarily annex and become part of the city that has revenue stream. So the perfect example, and Luke, you would know this, is Shorty Pants. Okay. Shorty Pants is within 2 lots, I think, within 400 feet of being within the city limits. But Shorty Pants doesn't collect city of Osage Beach sales tax, okay, because they're outside the city. And there's a little, try to convince the Mark and those guys to be part of Osage Beach. And I think that's a conversation that Mark and Brian would be willing to listen to. Okay, so should we, for lack of a better term, step forward as a city and try to go after some opportunities like that? Let's take Redhead. Redhead, for example, I think is actually adjacent to the city. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of forgot one piece. If you're going to do annexation, it has to be contiguous. You can't, you have, the line has already have to have intersect or meet from outside the city limit to inside. You already got to be on the border. You got to be on the perimeter. Is the way I'm trying to explain it. So that's the first rule, no matter what, whether it's involuntary or voluntary. And then the question is, if it's voluntary, it's pretty easy because, the police just start running, surveying the area and so forth, the fire or the ambulance goes out there, but whatever streets you have is what you have. There's no commitment. But if it's involuntary, then as a city, you have to meet certain things. Like we'd have to make sure sewer got to them if it wasn't already there. We'd have to make sure that water got to them if it hadn't already gotten there within, I think, 7 years. Okay. And so there's some opportunities back to the Redhead thing. It's contiguous. Redhead could choose or actually involuntarily be involuntarily annexed within a certain time frame of a process, because and they have a lot of retail. And keep in mind, we don't have any property tax here. So the only way we're going to get revenue growth is through sales tax growth. And those are a couple of businesses that are very close, although Shorty Pants might be able to become contiguous. And so the question is this a good idea or a bad idea? There's people out there that think it'd be good to, they're residents of outside the city limits. They're next to them, to the city, or very close, and could talk some people into it. But then we'd have to provide these services. I think I have an opinion, but I don't want to jade the conversation. But the conversation, that's the input we'd like to have. What thoughts do you all have around those kind of things?
Well, and Phyllis, and I'll get to you here in a second. I know for us, and we've had that discussion. We've talked to them with Mark and Brian, and like you said, they are open to it. They obviously haven't committed to anything. And I think one of the main concerns for us, specifically at Shorty Pants, is the coverage from the police department. Yeah. Because of now, if a situation comes up at Shorty Pants, we have to. It's Camden County is who would be is the responder there, and that that could be they could be as far out as HH or so far away. So I know the immediate advantage that we saw as a company for Shorty Pants, and we've also reached out to Redhead, and I think they kind of feel the same way. Was the police coverage was the first thing. I'm pretty sure Redhead is on city water and sewer already.
Yes, they're out of city or customers. We have lots of those.
Right. So that transition wouldn't be as right. It's kind of already there. So like I said, as far as specifically on Shorty Pants, because it came up, and like I said, we've had this discussion before, and obviously, again, no commitment at this point, but it's certainly a topic that they're willing to discuss, and that it wasn't immediately shut down. So Phyllis.
I was just going to make a comment for those that may be not aware of, but if this would ever come to fruition of doing some kind of annexation, it has to be voted on from both places, both places. I mean, from what it would call the property Redhead all the way down to Shorty Pants, all of those owners would have to vote, just like the rest of the city of Osage Beach. It has to be a mutual thing to agree on, and I think more than anything, obviously it would be wonderful, because it would mean more sales tax revenues for the city to have, especially both of those businesses, Redhead and Shorty Pants. I mean, otherwise it's just strictly the residential that's down in there, some homes, as well as that subdivision. What is that? Mar-a-Lago, Casa del Lago, or you know what I'm talking about. Where oh, help me. The subdivision that's got it gated, it's on your way to Shorty Pants.
Yeah.
Hewlett's
Hewlett's and Whittles, and
Well, Hewlett's and Whittles, and yes. Well, I don't know. I just think it's a give wonderful thing to happen, but everybody's got to be in mutual terms for sure to do this. And I'd like to see it happen.
And I guess my question is, Shorty Pants, isn't a registered voter, right? And it just so happens, right now Brian lives in the city limits, but Mark lives in Lynn Creek. So like the voting from that aspect. I mean, obviously there's a residential portion of it, but like say you were just gonna, and I know it's not possible because it's not contiguous as you mentioned, but like say Redhead, for example, to like annex just Redhead, how does that vote happen? Because like I said, Redhead there's no.
My understanding, Luke, is that the two I would assume that there would have to be an approval by the board and an agreement a mutual agreement by the owners of Redhead. And I think then and I'm sure there's some legal documents, a bunch of lawyers involved, but then it just happened. I don't think you're going to a vote of the public. Okay. And so, but Janelle, do you know, or you want to add to that?
No, I have another question, so go ahead.
Oh, okay. So to your point, Luke, I don't know if you're going out to, you want to take over 10 square miles outside Osage Beach and that incorporates 40 people, 40 voters. I don't even know that goes out. Okay. I think that those now somehow they have to apply. Okay. From a voluntary standpoint, you have to ask to come in. And if that's through a vote process, I'm not sure. I've never seen an annexation like that that's been large. So, but it's happened. I know it's happened. So
we'll go Janelle, then Corey.
Taking Redhead, say, as an example, what are the advantages to them for coming into the city other than police protection? They don't have to call the county, they can call the city police. What other advantages will they reap from that move?
So I can answer that if anybody. So first of all, besides that, their water, on average, the last time I checked, their water and sewer bills would be cut in half because they're now an in-city customer.
Okay, so that's
They used to, right, they were an out-of-city customer until then. Okay.
Especially when we got pools like that to fill that water bill. It's a big deal. We just filled our pools out here. I know that rolls.
Our water and sewer is still
Richard,
pretty
what
reasonable.
does that amount to? What
I
do
have
they look
no
like
idea,
if
but
you
I don't
said
think
they're
it's
cut in half?
I don't think it's huge dollars. I'm guessing, I don't know what the bill is. I could go probably look that up, and that's probably public knowledge if you sunshine it, but I'm guessing it's not a lot of money to Redhead. I'll put it to you that way. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, when you start looking at their bar, all the people that are there and the Performance Marine Center next door, I mean, to be quite honest, if I had to assume which place produced more sales, it may be that Performance Marine Center selling the boats and the motors and things like that.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know that it's a big deal to them. The police could be helpful.
Probably most of their boats are Coast Guard registered though, and not sales taxed anyway, aren't they?
Yeah, you could be right, Janelle.
I wouldn't know. I would think somebody's got a race boat. They're not going to be put into the Coast Guard. I wouldn't, but maybe most others do. I don't know. There may be some tax advantages. I don't know.
There are. You don't pay sales tax.
Okay.
We'll go Corey and then come to Janice.
Yeah, just regarding the annexation discussion. I mean, it's kind of, when it comes to the city voluntarily or involuntarily annexing something that currently exists and making part, I mean, that just seems like a conversation between that business owner and those surrounding property owners and the city. I don't know how that helps really with citizen advisory committee suggestions, other than where you could maybe annex property that's not in use or outside the city limits, maybe an empty field, and then you target that for some sort of development at the city level. I think that might be a little bit more. I don't know how many opportunities there would be for the city to be able to do something like that. So we just got through talking about how we're going to build a pool, maybe. Where are you going to put it? So if there was annexation opportunities in that area where you wouldn't be taking over someone's business or anything and making arrangements with them, but it would be maybe an empty field or something. I know we've talked about having a designated location for targeted CIDs or something like that for a entertainment venue on the west side or whatever. And maybe that's where the annexation steps in. The city could maybe put together a plot of land and target that for some sort of development or entertainment venue of some kind, or maybe the pool itself. I don't know if the pool would be appropriate down at the park, but maybe that's where it would go. But again, that from an annexation aspect, I would think that would be more what we would want to look at is what opportunities does the city have to maybe expand their footprint a little bit, and then turn that into something that could bring in revenue. The city and Redhead's agreeing to become part of the city. That's great. It doesn't really, you know what I mean? It doesn't really help push.
But there is a question on the table about should we, for example, and I don't know that, by the way, I'm not saying I propose this by any means, but should the city involuntarily annex Redheads? All we've got to do is provide them water, sewer, police, and some roads, and we've met all the requirements. And I don't know that the redheads would fight it. I don't know the city want to take that approach, but it's some of that. There's it's a question that should be at the least tossed around, and it'd be great to have anybody's opinion on that. I think I probably know the answer, but it would sure be nice to know that, because it would help the board.
Personally, I like that idea, but that's just Luke. Just the idea of the government doing anything involuntarily always just makes me shudder. So
Sure.
Janice,
What about codes?
Yeah.
If we would be, if they'd annex, then from then on, is everything I have to be to code?
I'm fairly confident that, and I don't know all the semantics, but I would be fairly confident that anything that they built from a future standpoint would have to meet code.
But they'd be grandfathered?
Probably, unless there was probably there'd be an inspection project, and there might be, if some egregious issue was out there, there might be something called out before the annexation could complete. But
Would
yeah,
the
they would be
county have
grandfathered.
inspected them prior to?
Right, but it'd be no different than implementing codes in a city. Everybody was grandfathered once the first time the code was implemented and the vote was passed. Everybody was grandfathered at that point. It's just how you progress in the future.
But I'm just saying that could be, well, I just wondered on
worries.
code.
all right. I think we covered all on annexation. Correct? Is there any other discussions or questions there? Well, according to my agenda here, I think we've covered everything, correct?
Sure.
If nobody has anything further, I'd just like to take a personal privilege here and extend to Dr. Brown my appreciation for her putting herself on the ballot. I know that's a tough deal.
Thank you.
And commend you for putting yourself out there and a wish to serve the community. And just personally, I just like to say, appreciate your efforts there. So
Thank
Me
you.
too.
Absolutely.
Very appreciative.
very commendable there. So with that being said, oh, and the other thing I wanted to say is it's been fascinating watching Diana do her home improvement tonight. That's been
Could you see me painting?
yes.
This is actually, okay, whoops, my son and daughter-in-law's house, and they closed on it April 1st, but they're not gonna be here till June.
Oh.
So my daughter and I are painting it.
What a
And
gal.
it's 4,000 square foot, and we're not anywhere near where we thought we would be. So I have my headphones in and I just kept working.
Well, they're
So I-
lucky to have you.
For you.
Yeah.
So
I'm
we
not
commend you
cheap.
for that as well. So and with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
One more thing, Luke.
Ma'am.
I don't know that it's anything we want to address, but when I listened to the mayors during the forums, one of the other comments from all of the mayors and the aldermen that were involved with the forums mentioned workforce housing. And I don't suppose that we're any better off than any other community. And with Corey's recommendation that if we had money looking to perhaps find land or opportunity someplace, I don't know if we could partner with anybody or look at any possibilities for workforce housing. It certainly would help with employment. I mean, you're seeing people saying we can't get help. A lot of that has to do with the additional funding that the government's providing, but still, you know how it is.
I will say there was some good news on that front, particularly here in Osage Beach.
Good.
Former Town and Country Motel, now Lighthouse, has been purchased, and
Right.
they will be offering that for summer housing going forward.
Oh, that's good.
I've already got some of my folks working their way into being in that.
Whoa.
I
good.
heard that Scotty Shin also had a contract, but I don't know who has purchased it or what their intent is. But this just as Neil said, I personally have been talking to some business owners, more so, of course, on the West End, and they're very concerned. They're privately owned, obviously, and saying, business is good, but I'm losing help. One after another, they show up for a week, and then they're gone. And then he said, my one cook that has a family, obviously, was working, and then he got this huge stimulus check and thought he was, you know what, rich. And so he took off a week. Like I said, I just didn't even call in sick, just said, we're just going to take it off because we like enjoy this little leisure time. And here's the business, at their mercy. I don't know what we can do, but we desperately need more affordable housing in Osage Beach, without a doubt. It's a real problem. And Luke, with hiring help, what it is of getting decent help. You don't want to be paying $15, $17 an hour just to keep somebody when they're not even worth 12. I mean, it's a mess.
We are.
Oh,
And
boy.
I just finished up payroll for this weekend. We're at 98 employees here at Dog Days right now. And I also checked, I've hired just in the spring, 53 people, brand new people this year added to my staff, starting from February till now. And like I said, the very first thing I ask anybody is, do you have a place to stay? And fortunately, a lot of my college kids, their parents have recently purchased a condo in the area, and that's where they're.
Oh,
Right.
So a lot
you're
of my.
lucky.
So yeah, I am, and like I said, it's always a struggle every year. Going back to my years at Topsider over 10, 15 years ago,
Right.
it was always a deal. But it's just a challenge we have to face. And
Well, it's worse now because of COVID and the stimulus checks. With unemployment, people are staying home because they think, why should I go to work? I'm doing just fine. And it's a mess. We're going to be in real trouble if we don't get some more kind of housing for workers. That's for sure.
And, the thing I've been focusing on, to be honest with you, is obviously recruitment. We are paying a premium. We gave pretty much everybody on staff a raise going into the season, just anticipating that. And for me, it's all about creating a culture that people want to work for you and be there.
Big.
And it's very on the forefront of my mind because the staff, in a business like ours, the staff is the heart of the business, and we gotta
Right.
help them. And I spend most of my day as a cheerleader and a motivational speaker, trying to convince them. And I got, I'm blessed because I have a lot of good kids that work for me, and we do have a good culture around here, good attitude. But it's always, it's a constant battle. I got to remind them how lucky they are to work for me.
You're always so positive,
Yeah.
Luke.
Well, then I need to come over there, Luke, and give him the straighter way.
There you go. So with nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Don't move.
I got a Janelle motion and a Janice second. Is that how that worked?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All in favor?
Hi.
Bye.
Till next month.
Everybody have a
Appreciate your
great evening.
time.
See
And
you
Corey,
then.
thank you. Let's get
everybody.
together soon.